Hi, I'm Will Bruin, and I was just recognized as a Seattle Sounders legend. Now I get to do voice reads for the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners!
Here comes Rui Diaz through the middle to crown it for Seattle!
The Sounders rule the region!
Seattle Sounders is campeón! All creatures great and small!
You know, what was the thought process in terms of who you decided to use and who you didn't?
Ever since Sounder at Heart wrote a commentary that we didn't take Gold Cup seriously.
This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Welcome back to another episode of Nos Arietes, part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network, sponsored by Full Pull Wines, Hacks and Ferments, and of course, you, our subscribers. We're recording on Tuesday, October 28th. I am your host, Jeremiah Shan. Today, I am joined by Aaron Campo and our engineer, Lickett. The Sounders find themselves in an unfamiliar position, trailing Minnesota United 1-0 in a best-of-3 first-round series. They find themselves here because they couldn't find a goal despite creating numerous situations, scoring situations, and then falling in the penalty shootout. Aaron, in a game like this, where the Sounders have almost 70% of possession, where they more than double the XG output of Minnesota United, where they created several very good scoring chances, do you come out of it confident that they played a solid game? And if they do that, they'll be able to, if they do that at home, that they should win? Or do you come out it frustrated that for all they did positive, they still are down 1-0? Like that game counts for nothing.
I think both. I mean, I think you're crazy not to be frustrated with not being able to convert a couple of, the two good chances Moose had, the good chance Rothrock had. One of those not going in is very frustrating. And it's, especially when you know that you're sort of at a disadvantage going into penalties, as I felt like it was kind of obvious the Sounders did. It's definitely frustrating to not score. But I also think if they repeat that performance in Seattle, and probably if they repeat that performance again in Minnesota, they'll go through. So I think it can be both things. I think, as a wise man once said, sometimes ball not go in, and ball not go in. It's just it's very frustrating to get chances like that late and not be able to capitalize on them, especially when those are the kind of chances that Danny Musovski has been able to capitalize on all year. The Rothrock chances would have been a pretty vintage Rothrock type of goal. They had a few other good looks that maybe didn't have the big chance designation or wouldn't have registered as high on the XG chart, but were very solid looks that they weren't able to convert. And you have to hope that you look back on this game as a proof of concept of what they were able to do in the next two legs, but they were able to have the final touch and convert those chances rather than indicative of the eventual cause of their downfall.
Yeah, so I'm going to share a couple stats that sort of illustrate, I think, the point you're talking about. One of them is that Sounders had 2.4 XG, which, I don't know, that may sound like gobbledygook to a lot of people, but I'll give you some context for it. The Sounders played 47 games this year. This was the 48th game. In the 47 previous games they had played, they had never failed to score in a game where they were over 1.5, and they had almost a full goal more than that in this game. To also illustrative of this point, they had 4 big chances. They've had exactly 4 big chances in 10 other games. In 8 of them, or 9 of them, I should say, they scored at least 1 goal. The only other time that they had 4 big chances and didn't score, though, was at Minnesota United in the previous game.
Right.
Yeah. Which is to say, like, these are like the Sounders genuinely created real scoring opportunities. I think the 2 Musovski chances were probably were the best. You know, the first one ends up going in the book as something like 0.8 xg. That's the one where Morris slips him in, and he makes a great move to open himself up. He has a clean look on goal. Looks like he's trying to 5-hole Dane St. Clair. St. Clair just gets his knee down right in time, and it doesn't go in. But the other one, in some ways, is even more frustrating because Morris hits a very hard cross. It's coming in fast, but Musovski is able to get his forehead on it. He's got an open goal in front of him. This is almost the exact kind of goal you expect. This is the kind of goal Musovski has been scoring all year, and he shoots it over the bar. That one goes in the book as like 0.5 xg. I mean, you get a 0.5 and a 0.8 xg chance late in the game, you're kind of figuring you're going to score one of those. And those were, I mean, and maybe the XG overvalues those a little bit because of the circumstance, but still, those were genuinely great scoring chances, and they had a couple others as well. But I don't know, it's very frustrating that they didn't score in that game. And you really would expect them to score at least one of those chances.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where it really is which you know, whether you're looking through the rose-colored side of your glasses or not, right? To say, look, they've created chances, they've shown that they can break down Minnesota's low block, they've shown that they can be dangerous against them. They were much better, I think, at creating chances than they were the last time they played in Minnesota. And you can feel positive about that, or you can say this is not a Minnesota team that is in the habit of giving up a lot of good chances, and they weren't able to convert them. And Minnesota's going to look at the tape and make some adjustments for the next couple of games, and it's going to be that much harder. I tend to think that it's much more likely that the Sounders are not going to have 3 straight games in Minnesota where they create solid chances and don't convert them. I just think that's the way the data works, right? If you continue creating good chances, you're likely to eventually capitalize on them. And so I don't think the Sounders need to change much when they go back to Minnesota, assuming they do go back to Minnesota. But I do think, I've been a skeptic of single game XG a lot in the past, but I think this is a good example of why you have to go deeper, because we've seen games where teams have a decent amount of XG because they take a lot of low percentage shots. The Sounders created really good chances. They didn't create a ton of them, but we established, that's not something they created some great ones. And I think that I would rather, in a game against a team like Minnesota, I would much rather create 4 big chances like that than take 20 shots that are speculative. Because I think
only
it's
14
just
shots. Like they created that much XG on 14 shots it illustrates sort of like the quality of the chances that they were creating.
It does. And we've heard a lot the Sounders just aren't capable of breaking down Minnesota's low block. They did break it down. Right. They did on several occasions. And I think people tend to also forget that they scored twice against Minnesota in Seattle when they played here. And it wasn't the attack that was the problem on that day, So I'm still hopeful. I'm still optimistic. I expect to win the game at home. And I think they've got, a very good chance to win the game back in Minnesota if they get to it. But they need to execute at least as well as they did in this game, and they need to just have a little bit more of a clinical touch at the end.
Yeah, so on the other side of the ball, Minnesota generated about 1 XG. The biggest chance they had was early in the game. I think it was the 9th minute. Bongi, I'm not going to go for it. We're going to call him Bongi. Makes a nice move, gets himself free, racing in behind, Jackson Reagan chasing him. And then right at the last minute, Reagan gives him a little push. Now, was it a big push? Was it a little push? I don't know. The referee doesn't call foul. Bongi gets his shot off and goes wide. The Minnesota fans are apoplectic, as you might imagine. Eric Ramsey, after the game, I did think this was a little funny. He talked a lot about it. Like he was like, I've never seen a clearer penalty. I'm not going to do it the accent, but he has an English accent, so it's funnier when he says it. But he was very upset. I thought it was weird how much energy the Minnesota was expending over the referee when they won the game. Right. And there were some calls that favored them as well, I should say. Some big calls that favored them as well. But where did you come down on that particular call? The Jackson Reagan no call?
I don't think it's a foul, especially in the playoffs. I think right, wrong, or indifferent, we know that the standard for what a foul is, especially a red card foul in the playoffs, is much higher.
Right. That would probably be, you'd have to go dog-so, right? You'd have to give him a double, because he's not playing the ball.
You would absolutely have to. I think that if that happens to a Sounders player, and I've heard a few people say if that happens to us, we'd feel aggrieved. I don't think I would feel that aggrieved. I don't think that Jackson Reagan bumping into him is the difference between him converting that shot or not. I think that if you allow Jackson Reagan to catch up to you on a break, you don't deserve a goal. I did not see that much in it. I didn't see the push at all. I saw some contact. And Reagan is running at full sprint and the attacker slows down to take the shot. Obviously, Reagan is responsible for not crashing into him. So I guess you could say, well, any contact there is a foul. I just don't buy it. I don't think that that's a foul most of the time. I certainly don't think it's a foul in the 9th minute of the first round of the playoffs. And I really don't think if it had been a no call for us that I would have been that aggrieved by it. I really don't.
I mean, I don't know that how aggrieved I'd feel. I will say that I know this has happened many times, especially like to Jordan Morris. I feel like he's been, and my impression is that referees are much more likely to let a little bit of that shoving go on a play like that than if you come in and tackle someone from behind.
Right. Yeah.
In part because it's not as dangerous, but it's just not as, and I guess really whether or not it's a foul comes down to like how much force you think Jackson Reagan is applying there. I watched the replay a few times. I'm not 100% convinced that it was nothing. And I think there are instances where a referee might call that. But in this case, I think the double jeopardy aspect of it helps Reagan because the referee knows if I don't feel super strongly about this being a penalty, I can't call this because I'm going to have to send them off too. And that feels like a massive punishment. Now, that's a big call, obviously. I think we have, I think the Sounders essentially get away with one. Reagan even acknowledges that, I got to be more careful there. Whether or not it was a foul, it was a risky situation, right?
Yeah.
But I think that sort of evens out at the very least. Later in the game, it's around the 55th minute. Sounders sent in a corner. It bounces around the box. Jordan Morris puts a header on goal. It's going on net, and there's Markanich is standing on the line. His arm is out. The ball strikes his arm pretty clearly. Looks like it's going to be a penalty. And again, this may be a dog. I think that would be a dog-so as well, right? That's probably going to be a red. If you block a ball on the goal line with your hand, that's probably a red, right? Well, It doesn't matter because there's a foul called earlier in the play. I have watched this play several times. It's on Paul Rothrock. He's kind of tangled with Boxall. I don't really see much of a foul there. That felt really soft to me, but I guess I'm okay with it in a way because maybe it evens out. But I thought that was at least as much of a penalty and a red as the Bongi one was.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to look at it. And I guess paradoxically, if you think that the Reagan foul was a soft call, you would feel like maybe the Rothrock foul wouldn't get called because I think it was a similar level of.
Right.
I think it was a little bit more of a foul than you did, but I do think it was soft. And maybe that is the right way to look at all of those kind of very marginal calls. Is like, well, if you get away with it, you get away with it. You probably shouldn't be putting yourself into that situation. But yeah, I think that people tend to blow those marginal calls way out of proportion. I think, especially in hindsight, in a game where there wasn't a goal, so every call or non-call was so magnified in importance. But I think it would be much better if refereeing in the playoffs was exactly the same as it was during the regular season, and if every referee called every game exactly the same way. But that's not the way it is. It's not the way it is anywhere in the world. It's never going to be that way because the referees aren't robots and they have their own interpretations and their own standards and everything like that. And I just don't think either call was egregious enough for anybody to be too upset about it.
Yeah, I'm okay with you there. But one other big call I want to talk about.
Yeah, this one I'm pissed about still.
This one kind of sucks. It's, I don't know, 80th minute, 85th minute, something like that. The Minnesota United has a corner kick. They send it in, and Christian Roldan is like 2 arms shoved to the ground. Yeah. Minnesota gets the ball. They end up taking a dangerous shot. It goes wide or something, but it was a pretty dangerous shot. But this is like one of those things where it's like, if you're going to call that Paul Rothrock play, you got to call, like, this is an offensive team getting a clear advantage through very obviously shoving a attacker. I was sort of beside myself on that one at the time, but I just go back to, it's just very funny to me that Minnesota is acting like they are uniquely aggrieved in this game by the referee calls, when at the very least they were getting the benefit. I think they came out ahead on the big calls. They
got away with 2 very orange cards in this game too. Right. They had the there was the I don't remember who it was that cleaned out Rusnak late on. But that was very similar to the red card Rusnak got against Portland. And then there was the much more obvious elbow late on, who again I don't remember exactly.
That was on Alex.
Pereira, right? Was the one.
Oh, right, that's right, Pereira.
So, and like, look, I think that those are both 50-50 calls that could go either way. But if you get 2 of those and you get bailed out on what would have been a red card penalty, and you get away with a 2-handed shove on a play that ultimately ended up leading to nothing, but could have very easily been a goal and could have also been another yellow card, maybe save it. And you also win the game, right? Maybe save the bitching about the referee. Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah. Again, I don't like to spend this much time on what was a foul, what wasn't a foul, that kind of stuff. But it's just, I think it just bugged me how much they were complaining about it.
Yeah, it's very annoying. Yeah.
But anyway, so we go either way. No score in this game. It goes to penalties. I don't know how confident I felt going into penalties, to be honest with you. I felt like, the Sounders had won 4 straight penalty shootouts going back to last year's playoffs, where they won both rounds. Interestingly enough, Minnesota United also advanced on a pair of penalty shootouts in the first round last year. Dane St. Clair, though, is legitimately a very good penalty stopper. Yeah. And the Sounders opened this up with Albert Rusnak converts, whoever shoots for Minnesota converts. And then the number 2 taker was Alex. I think it was Alex, right? That was the second one.
Yep.
And I gotta say, I had no issue really with the 5 players that were selected. I've done a fair amount of research on this. I actually have put together a spreadsheet that looked at every player their penalty record as well as their shootout record, including MLS Next Pro and international play. Alex Roldan, I think, is 4-4. There's not a lot of Sounders with a ton of experience. Albert Rusnak is essentially the only one that's a regular penalty taker. But Alex has been nails when he's been up. He'd converted both of his shootout shots. He had converted both of his actual penalties in games, most recently, obviously, in the Leagues Cup final. And he just blasted it down the middle. I was a little surprised that he opted for the blast down the middle.
It's not my favorite penalty, but I understand the game theory aspect of it, right? Like,
yeah.
And that's the thing with shootouts too, is that you can look at the conversion rates for the different zones and how often shots are saved. But if Dane St. Clair guesses right, he's almost certainly stopping whatever you do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a decent bet to say, well, if he dives at all, he's not going to get this. And I mean, he hit the piss out of it. So if he
did hit it hard,
yeah. So if he moves off of his, if he dies either way, there's no way he's getting it. So, maybe not my favorite penalty, like I said, but it's hard for me to be critical with it. And he did what he was trying to do with it. He just St. Clair didn't dive,
Yeah, I mean, St. Clair makes a good play.
Pretty clear that St. Clair was in his head as well, I think.
Yeah, he had forced Alex to move the ball. So, and what I guess I should have looked this up, but I guess what he told reporters after the game was, "Oh, there's a new rule where all of the majority of the ball has to be on the penalty spot, and the ball was just hanging off the penalty spot." I don't know if that's a rule. As far as I know, the rule on where the ball is placed is the same it's ever been. Either way, he got the referee to change it. I don't know that's sort of like, this is gamesmanship. He is between almost every penalty, he was talking to the ref, he was doing all this kind of stuff. I guess before the final one, he goes to the ref and says, if he misses this, we win, right? Which fair play, Dane St. Clair. You're getting in guys' heads. Steph Fry, on the other hand, he doesn't have the most confident look. I will say he guessed right on at least 3 of them.
Yeah.
He didn't come to, he may have tipped one, maybe 2, but he was not coming close.
The closest he got was to one that nobody was saving, which is kind of ironic, right?
Yeah. But anyway, so where the shootout is really kind of lost, though, is Jackson Reagan converts his. Jackson Reagan, by the way, a lot of people were wondering why Jackson Reagan is in this. He's now 3 for 3 in shootout, so I feel like he's. I assumed he was going to take one because he's looked real confident in the previous ones. Yeah. But the next one was Christian Roldan, and he puts his laces through it. He looks like, to me, it looked good coming off his foot, but off the crossbar, he is now 2 for 6 on penalty shootouts in his career. I think he's hit the crossbar at least 3 times. And on one hand, I appreciate he clearly, my assumption is that he is up there saying, I want to take it. If Christian Roldan, one of your team leaders, says, I want to be in the penalty shootout, I think you almost have to let him. And I don't, if he was getting balls saved, if he was missing he's shooting high, skying it, I'd be like, this is not such a good idea. But I have a hard, I don't know. He's hitting it well, but he is definitely struggling on shootouts to convert.
Yeah, it's tough because I don't know who is better, who I can look at.
I mean, I guess you could say maybe Jordan, maybe. I saw a lot of people say Musovski should be in there. I don't know that. I don't buy that one.
But I mean, Jordan missed his last penalty. He
did exactly.
It's one of those things. I feel like Georgie took a penalty in Leagues Cup and actually hit it really well. So maybe
Georgie is
You know?
is I believe 3 for 3 in his career in shootouts.
Yeah. So maybe he's a better, but again, like you said, I think it's like if Alex wants to be in the shootout, Alex needs to be in the shootout. And yeah, I mean, I think it's tough to see. I was almost more upset by what came after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is because Alex did hit it really well, or Christian did hit it really well,
Yeah.
and just, you know.
So Minnesota converts. They give the Sounders a little bit of life because Julian Gressel hits it off the post. So it gives the Sounders a chance for a fifth attempt.
Yeah.
Danny Leyva, again, another player who I'm totally fine being in this lineup. Leyva is very good in training on penalties. He had been 3 for 3 in the next pro on penalties. I have a lot of confidence in him. He sends Dane St. Clair the wrong way, but he hits it off the post.
He did everything perfectly, and all he has to do is pass it into the bottom of the net, into the corner.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah.
It's shocking that he missed that penalty to me.
Yeah.
And you know, like that fifth spot is supposed to be a person you feel extremely confident is going to score.
Right.
And maybe you could say Rusnak should have been taking it. I don't know. But
instead of first, you mean?
Yeah, you know, but then you run the risk of not even getting to him. You know?
Right.
So
and if I remember correctly, that's what happened in 21 when they lost to RSL. They saved Ladero for fifth, and they didn't even get to the fifth spot.
Right. Yeah, shootouts are one of the most confounding things in soccer because there is a lot of data about them that tells you this is the right thing to do or this is the wrong thing to do, but there is so much game theory that goes into all of that I just feel so much less confident in any of that than I do like for any other element of the game and what the numbers are telling you.
Yeah.
Which
the flip. So the other side of the shootout, though, where I think a lot of the discourse has been focused is who should be in goal for the Sounders. For me, I was not surprised. I would have been shocked if Schmetzer had subbed out Fry for Andrew Thomas on like the last play of the game. It does seem like it kind of complicates things because you have to do it before the game's over, right? You can't do it going into the shootout. I was not surprised that, Andrew Thomas, it should be said, has a pretty impeccable record in shootouts. He is 7-1 as a professional. The last time I found, and then I think he's at least 8-1. One of his last appearances in college was a shootout win. He saves about 30, or he only about 70% of the shooters score against him, which is a very good, or maybe even less than that, score against him. He obviously had this great performance in the League's Cup. He's a good shot stopper.
Yeah.
I guess before we get into what we want to see next, how did you feel about the decision to leave Fry in?
So I thought there was so little chance of Stephen Fry getting pulled from that game that I felt like getting mad about it was like getting mad at Republicans for not passing tax increases on billionaires. Like, it's just not going to happen in this game. And I just can't invest any emotional energy into it. But after the shootout, I don't feel like Steph can get another one, whether that means if you go back to Minnesota, Andrew Thomas just gets the start because a shootout's on the table. I mean, obviously they could have a shootout in Seattle, but I do think that you have to go into that game with the mentality of we are winning this game at home.
Right.
And so you can't even be thinking about a shootout. If the game goes back to Minnesota and you don't feel comfortable making that change late, then I think you've got to start Andrew Thomas. And the thing that really sealed it for me is that I don't think the Sounders penalty takers had confidence that Steph was going to bail them out. Like after Jackson Reagan converts his penalty, he points at Steph and says, "Come on, Steph," and not in like a "Come on, Steph," but in a more like "Come on, dude, do your job" sort of way. And that speaks volumes. And like, I hate to do the body language thing. I totally do.
Yeah.
But I know what Steph Fry looks like when he is commanding the penalty area on corners, when he's coming out to make crosses. And I know
he's
what
not
he looks
making
like
himself
when he's standing
big
on his line. Yeah.
He's like kind of crouched in this old-timey position.
He just doesn't look like he has any confidence that he's going to stop the shots. And I think that has to get into the heads of the penalty takers. I think that it has to be like, if you're a Minnesota penalty taker and you feel like this guy's not getting to anything, it's going to make you less likely to miss, I think, because you don't feel like you need to put as much mustard on it, maybe, you know?
Although I will say, for the most part, their takes were really good.
They were good. They were good, for sure. Gressel's aside.
Right.
But it's not just this game, you know? Like, we have a lot of Steph Fry penalty shootouts. We have a lot of Steph Fry. Yeah. And he's the best keeper in club history by a million miles. And I still think he should probably be the starter, everything else considered. But he just is not he's not the guy for penalties. He's just not. And you contrast that to how Andrew Thomas looks in a shootout. Steph Fry is never turning to the crowd and saying, "I'm going to win the shootout right now," and going and doing it. He's just not doing. It's just, and that is so much of it, man. It is so much of it because it's, you know, it's just it's all mentality, I feel like, in shootouts.
Yeah. So here's the actual data. Andrew Thomas Andrew Thomas has actually faced he's faced more shots in shoot. Well, I guess that's to be expected because a lot of them were in Next Pro, but he has saved 17 penalty takers have not scored against him out of 46 shooters in shootouts. That's a save percent. That's roughly like 35%. What is
37.
Yeah, something like that. Steph Fry has faced 42 shots in a shootout, and all but 6 of them have scored. That's about
86% conversion rate.
Yeah. So
12 or 14% save rate.
Yeah. Not great.
And it's not a huge sample, but it's not a small sample either.
It's a lot of shots. He's faced 68 penalties in games and only 5 of them haven't scored. Right. 63 his opponents are 63 for 65 of him on actual penalties, which is like 5%. No, it's like 8%.
So he saved 65 faced in games
68 faced and 63 converted.
Okay. So that is 8%.
Yeah.
It's just not not a thing he's good at, you know?
No, he's a great goal. And it's I guess this is where I come down is if the Sounders are going to lose in penalties, I feel like they need to give themselves the best chance they can. And Andrew Thomas just gives them a better chance on penalties. I'm with you. I think if you are in game 2, maybe this isn't how you approach it, but game 3, this has to be something that you talk about. And maybe you don't want to get it. And I get it. You know, there's a lot of this is man management, right? You're still man managing. If you believe Steph Fry gives you the best chance to win in 90 minutes, you got to start him. And I don't think you want to put the doubt in his head, especially in game 2, that you have anything but full confidence in him. But if you go into game 3, I think you maybe you don't even talk to him Maybe you just surprise him. I don't know. But like, I do think that a hard conversation, there has to be some hard conversations about what do we do in a shootout. And honestly, I'd be okay with those same 5 guys taking the penalties. You know, it might not, not gonna say those are my ideal 5, but I'd be okay with it. Even Christian and missing, you know, he's only 2 for 6 on penalties. Also, I kind of feel like he's due. Like, yeah, there's no way, right? He's not going 2 for 7. Come on. Right. But yeah, I do feel like there needs to be a conversation.
I think it's always dangerous to feel like these guys. I mean, you do to a much greater degree than I do, or most people do. But Steph feels self-aware enough to know, like, that he's not good at this. That this is just not a strong suit of his game. Maybe he's so competitive that he doesn't care, and he feels like he can adjust and go out and prove that he's good enough. But he has to know about his track record. He has to be aware. I mean,
he's got to be. Yeah, he's got.
And if he's not, somebody from the coaching staff needs to bring him a spreadsheet. But I don't feel like he could be especially surprised, and I don't feel like he should be especially aggrieved. Like, I love Stephen Fry. He is one of the all-time legends of this club, one of the most beloved figures in club history. Seems like a wonderful, wonderful man. Is in large part responsible for a lot of trophies we've won over the years. But part of his job is stopping penalties, and he doesn't do it. And if it's the difference between your season ending and not, sorry, man. Like, it's just not a thing you're good at.
Yeah, and I think that where it comes down for me is, if you're going to go out in the first round, do you want to feel like you left bullets in the chamber? Do you want to feel like you pulled out all the stops?
Yep.
And you did everything you could, and you don't want to go in second. I think at this point you wouldn't second guess yourself. If you say, look, we're going to give Andrew the shot because he's proven that he's good at this. And if we don't win with Andrew in goal, you shrug your shoulders and you say, look, we did everything we could. Andrew's probably going to be the starter next year anyway. Sorry. Like, I really sorry, Steph, to do that, but that's what we had to do.
Right.
And I just don't feel like you're gonna. I feel like if Steph lifts you to the win, okay, I get like you. And I honestly feel like you kind of dodged okay, great, you dodged that bullet.
Right.
But is he gonna be your penalty guy the next stop still? Like, is that, you still feel good about that? You sure?
I also think too, do you want to keep feeling like you have to dodge that bullet? Like, if you get, like you said, if he gets you out of it in this round, or Minnesota bails you out, sorry, but that's the more likely scenario in a shootout. Are you going to feel good about going into the next game and having him be the one to take penalties because they become more likely? And
yeah.
Or would you rather set the tone early and say, look, Steph, you're going to keep starting, but when it's time for penalties, Andrew is getting the call? Because I think it's going to be much harder for him to deal with that if he wins a shootout here and then you're in the conference finals, So I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, it's, and I'll just bring this up. Steph he's 3-5 in shootouts in his career. In his career. He won the biggest one. He won that 2016 MLS Cup. He made a save on Michael Bradley. Then the other guy put it off the crossbar. But hey, he deserves credit for that win. And then he lost the next 4 that he was in. Actually, that wasn't his first. His first one, I guess, was Dallas the year before. But whatever. He did not look good in any subsequent shootouts after that. And then even in the Dallas or in the Houston one last year, where he won both shootouts, he only made 1 save, and he wasn't really that close to making the others. So he just doesn't. It just doesn't fill you with confidence,
Yeah.
But let's win this in regulation and not have to worry about this stuff. Yeah.
That would be nice. That would be nice. I hate shootouts.
I hate them too.
Everyone are
hates
unpleasant.
Doesn't everyone hate shootouts? Does anyone who's got a rooting interest in the game ever say fucking love shootouts, dude? It's that gets the energy going. No one says that.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, even in games where the Sounders were lucky to be in a position to get to a shootout, I still hated the shootout. Like, I've never felt like, oh, thank God we got that to a shootout, you know?
But
like,
and honestly, I think there's only been one time in my entire memory of the Sounders that they felt lucky to get to the shootout, and that was the 2016 final. And almost every other one, they felt like they fell backwards into it, you know?
Yeah.
Like maybe a few where it was like, okay, I guess we'll take it. But almost all of them, I feel like they have been the better team and they kind of screwed themselves by even getting to the shootout.
Yep. Yeah. Agree with that 100%.
Anyway. I guess maybe the Portland one. No, but even then. Nah.
In what, 2018?
Yeah, 2018.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to go back.
Yeah, because they did have to. They had to have a pretty good performance at home to get there for sure. But yeah.
Anyway, thank you for listening to the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network, which now includes Nos Arietes, Lobbing Scorchers, and the Cooler Guild. Although this podcast is free, it's only made possible through our paid subscribers. Plans start as low as $30 a year and allow us to remain independent and mostly ad-free. Subscribers get access to all our written and podcast content, including a full-text RSS feed and a mostly ad-free podcast feed that includes every show in one spot. If you really like what we're doing, though, I'd encourage you to sign up at our higher tiers, which include all sorts of various perks. The most popular of those is our members-only Discord, where the real Sounders sickos hang out. I know I've called this group the smartest, funniest, and best-informed Sounders fans in the world, but it's more than the rough equivalent of a Sounders Mensa meeting. Discord is where we make things happen, like for real. You know the promotion the Sounders ran that offered fans the opportunity to trade in their Messi jersey for a Paul Rothrock one? That originated in our community. You'll not only be the first to know about stuff, but you also have a semi-direct line to the movers and shakers at the Sounders organization. If you want to be one of the totally normal people who occupy the Sounder at Heart Discord, just become a supporter of Sounder at Heart. Anyway, thanks for listening, and go Durs. Nos Arietes, admittedly, is not exactly known for our spicy takes, but that doesn't mean we want our food to be mild. Spice up your life with Hacks and Ferments. Handcrafted in Georgetown and made with the best local ingredients from across the Pacific Northwest, they specialize in unique small batch fermented hot sauces and vinegars. Hacks and Ferments brings bold flavors and natural fermentation together for something truly special. Whether you're a heat seeker or just looking to elevate your cooking, you'll find something you love at hacksandferments.com. That's HAXANFERMENTS.com. And right now, if you use the code Sounder at Heart, that's all one word, at checkout, you will get a free hot sauce with your order. Again, go to hacksandferments.com, use the code Sounder at Heart at checkout for a free hot sauce with your order. Hacks and Ferments is a proud sponsor of the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. Well,
yeah.
Games on Monday could be the last. I mean, either way, it might be the last home game of the season.
It probably
even
is.
if they win this game, there's a pretty good chance it's the last home game of the season, because they are going to be, they would potentially play San Diego next if they, or there's a chance that would be Portland. I don't think that's going to be the case. Portland was very, it was funny, not to get sidetracked, but Portland got played off the park, and yet they had a really good chance to pull out, to get that to a shootout. I don't think they're gonna do much though, and even at home against San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that I hope they do, because I don't want to play them. I would.
Yeah, I would honestly, I'd rather play San Diego.
Yeah, I just maybe that's partially just because I hate playoff games against Portland so much.
Yeah.
We've never knocked them out of the playoffs.
Yeah, maybe we're due for that too. I don't know.
I think we would this year. They're not very good, but I think we stand a decent chance against San Diego. So we would host them though, which would be nice. But
Portland, yeah,
I think it's a moot point, like you said. So
I won't say Vancouver looked fantastic against Dallas. We haven't seen LA in the playoffs yet. LA is playing on Wednesday. Crazy playoff schedule.
It's such a weird schedule, man. It's so weird.
I don't know. Do we want to talk about this? Do we want to talk about the playoffs? The wider thing?
The schedule?
Yeah. Do we?
Yeah. I mean, I don't. I understand what they're trying to do with the format. I still don't love it. It just feels. It feels focus grouped to me, right? Like
it does.
And I would much rather have either 3 straight rounds of higher seed hosts, single game elimination. If you do that, you've got to go to 120 minutes. You can't do the penalties straight after 90.
Oh yeah.
Sure. If you're gonna do the best of 3, it should be best first to 5, and you only go to penalties in the last game. I don't understand why they're not doing it that way. Doesn't make sense to me. But they want. I think you pointed out in the Discord today that they want inventory of games for Apple, so that's that they're a stakeholder. Everybody wants a home playoff game to get that last gate of the year, so ownership is a stakeholder here, right? But it feels that way, right? Like it feels like the competitive aspects of the format are like tertiary at best. And that sucks. Like these are supposed to be the biggest games of the year. And
it just feels unbalanced to start it with best of 3 and then go single elimination out.
That's the thing, man. If you're going to do the best of 3, if Apple wants games, give them a bunch more and just go best of 3 the whole way through and play a midweek game, and the season's going to get longer.
Got to do midweek games.
Yeah.
But my proposal for fixing just the best of 3 round. Again, I don't love the best of 3 round. I will say I like it better than the aggregate goal. I do think one of the things that I've always been bothered by the aggregate goal series is that it's designed to remove home field advantage.
Yeah.
But in a playoff, the whole point is that you want these teams seeded. You want there to be an advantage to being the higher seed. And the aggregate goal thing totally undercuts that, especially if you're going home and home. So I don't like aggregate goal. I think you go single elimination or you do something like this. And if you are going to have best of 3, the solution I'd like to see is that you get 1 point for a win, 3 points for 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie. You don't do shootouts in the first 2 games. If you tie game 1, you get 1 point. You tie game 2, you get 2 points. You got to get to 4 though. And so game 3, you can have a shootout and you get a full 3 points if you win that.
Right.
But so that way, if you tie game 1 and you win game 2, you go through. If you both tie, you got to play game 3. If you play game 3, you whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you, man. I don't get why they want penalties earlier.
I don't either.
I guess nobody likes penalties.
I get maybe that's another focus group. Apparently, focus groups
maybe
like neutrals love penalties. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe I don't know. I just when I'm as a neutral fan personally, I hate penalties too. So I don't think it's that. I don't know. I just I don't want to go back to home and home, with the exception of the one place it's never been, which is MLS Cup, where there shouldn't be a home field advantage, but that's never going to happen because they are still convinced that it's going to be the Super Bowl.
I get the optics of it.
I get it, but and it's they don't do it for anything anymore, right? Like Champions League is no longer a home and home. UEFA Champions League hasn't been for forever, but it's neutral site at least, so that helps. But there's got to be better than this. There's got to be a better way to do it than this. You could do home and home with the higher seed advancing instead of there being penalties would be an option maybe. But I would much rather do single elimination than what they've got now for sure.
Yeah. Well, we fixed it for you, MLS. Just call us up.
Yeah.
Although it does sound like they are in the process of revamping the whole competitive format of the league, in addition to getting ready to move to the spring bowl.
Yeah.
It
does sound like that's fully. I mean, that feels like a done deal to me.
Yeah, just a matter of when, not if.
Yeah.
And then it will be they're talking about other formats for the league. I wouldn't mind a Apertura Clausura kind of situation. It would be tough to balance it out, though.
Yeah.
I suppose you could kind of do that if you could do an Apertura Clausura with where you split the league and you just play. No, that would be too many games. I don't know.
I don't love that format for whatever reason. They're never going to do what I think they should do, which is not have cross conference play until playoffs.
I mean, I don't hate that.
My ideal format is double round robin within the conference, and then at the end, you've got however many teams from each conference make the playoffs, and you either do group stages, double round robin, something in the playoffs where it's like almost like a second season type of situation, and then you play a final. And I think that's the best combination of most fair and balanced, and competitive, pro competitive, while also having plenty of playoff games, making sure all the playoff teams get playoff games. You give advantages to higher seeds, whatever it is. But yeah, that's what I'd love to see them do. It just doesn't seem super likely to me. There are, like, I know that the justification is still most likely, well, we want every team to get to host Messi. I mean, the Sounders only hosted Messi because of Leagues Cup.
That's not. Yeah, right? That I feel like
that's just not compelling to me anymore.
Yeah, it's not compelling to me either.
Yeah. So what's the reason? I mean, it cuts down on travel. It cuts down on costs for the teams.
Yeah, I don't know that there is honestly a great. I don't know that there's a great argument for cross conference at this point, other than I suppose there's just not enough teams to split them up and do the double round robin thing, because if they're at 30 right now, so you're talking about only 28 games, so they need to find 6 more games.
I think if you do a playoff that is expanded, I mean, the problem there obviously, I guess, is that the other teams are going to lose like 3 gates for the year, so that is an issue, I suppose. But I don't know. It's not my problem. They should make the playoffs if they want those extra gates, or just bring in, 3 more expansion teams. I don't know.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we should probably get out of here, Aaron. It's been wonderful, as always.
As always. Yeah.
Thank you to our sponsors, Full Pool Wines and Hacks and Ferments. Thank you to our subscribers. Always. Thank you to our subscribers. It looks like we are very close to getting the full text RSS feature up and running. If that's something that interests you, stay tuned. We also just put out a survey, we just put out a survey that we partnered up with 21 other independent soccer sites to create a survey that both asks you about your team as well as the league as a whole. So be looking for that in your inbox. All that said, I am Jeremiah Shan, signing off for Nos Audietes, which is part of the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. We'll catch you next time.
Let's go f***ing Sounders.